Ed, hello.
Hello there.
I see there's a Christmas jumper that's come with you.
Yeah, well, I just released my Christmas single. You know, we're heading for number one.
Okay, well, we'll let the voters decide. We'll let the listeners decide. Right, more on that in a bit. And I have a feeling you're itching to put that Christmas jumper on, but I think maybe we should transition into a sort of Christmassy second half, and we'll do a more serious first
definitely.
half. Okay. Now, you were just telling me as we were getting ready, you had an away weekend for your 72 MPs. I mean, that's a lot more than the 15 you went into the election with. Have you learnt all their names?
Absolutely. There were two that I hadn't met before. Josh from...
Where had they been?
Well, they weren't on my itinerary, you know, for the general election. And indeed, there was quite a few colleagues who got elected wonderfully, whose constituencies I haven't been to. So I've been doing a tour of them every Friday, getting to my wonderful new colleagues, getting to other parts of the country, and building the team. And I think in Parliament we're beginning to punch above our weight.
How so?
Well, I've set this target for us of being the best opposition, and certainly a better opposition than the Conservatives. And what do I mean by that? I mean being constructive, so holding the government to account where we disagree with them, but not being afraid to say, well, we agree with that too, and not just in issues, but also in tone. I think tone really matters. And I'm afraid the Conservatives have already gone back into a sort of yaboo politics, which I think turns people off. And I want us to be better than that. And I also think we've got a place in this Parliament because the Conservatives just aren't credible on the health service or the cost of living or the environment and so on. They did such a bad job. And I think every time they get up and talk about it, the Labour government's going to be able to sort of knock them down, where we can actually, through the fact we've been campaigning on these issues, got some credible policies on them, really hold the government to account. And I think that's really important for the country.
Do you think Keir Starmer is justified when he starts every speech or every interview by basically complaining about the Tories' legacy, even though he's the one in charge now? Do you think he's justified? That's a justifiable tactic?
Well, I mean, it won't go on for years and years, right? He's got to show that he's making a difference. And
when's that point? When's that switch over? Do you think?
It's difficult to say, to be precise. But listen, at the moment, it is fair. I mean, the Conservatives are there making a complete hash of things. And, you know, it played out before our eyes. We could see it. The disunity, the division, the ever-changing people, number 10, number 11, throughout each department. When you have that level of political instability, you just won't get things done. And, you know, people pay the price for that.
Talking about Keir Starmer's inheritance, do you believe his argument about the £22 billion black hole in the nation's finances that he says were left by the Tories?
I'm not sure if the number is 22. The OBR questioned that, as you know. But equally, I actually think they could have made the number up in different ways. So take local government, which is absolutely under the cosh at the moment. You're seeing councils near bankruptcy. Some have gone bankrupt. And you know, some it may have brought them on themselves, of course, through bad local government. But actually a lot have had a real struggle because of, you know, particularly underfunding of things like social care and housing. And if you added up all that underfunding, you might have got a different number, but probably composed in a different way. So there's no doubt.
Oh, so you think it could be bigger than 22 billion?
Listen, I don't know what the number would be. All I'm saying is that the Conservatives left the country in such a mess, both nationally and locally. And I regret that the government isn't talking about the local government mess, because I think it's so important. You know, people listening to this will know about the problems facing the local council. They may not be quite as aware on the social care side of it. They've heard that nationally, but it's local authorities who have to deliver that, of course. And they haven't got the money to do it. And that's part of the appalling legacy of the government, of the Conservatives.
We're all still getting used to which parties in government. It's interesting, Keir Starmer kept on calling Rishi Sunak Prime Minister as well, wasn't it? It took him a while to get his head around it. Well, you talked about it being like kind of a smarter opposition rather than just opposing things for opposition's sake. But you are opposing quite a lot of things. So like the change to inheritance tax for agricultural land, you're on the side of the farmers who are protesting. You're opposed to the increase in employers' national insurance contributions. So you actually are opposing quite a lot of the measures that the government's taking to get.
Yeah, well, I'd add to your list winter fuel payments from pensioners, the increase in the bus fare cap, and
so basically you're opposing all their big decisions.
Well, I mean, the things that we welcome. Let me just try and be positive for a moment. I I think the fact that they're engaging in Europe again, we haven't yet to see the benefits of that yet, but engaging is a good idea, and the Conservatives weren't. The fact that they want to spend more money on the NHS, I'm not sure if we're clear how they're going to spend it or where they're going to spend it, and particularly if they've got a social care side of that. But I welcome the fact they actually want to do something on that, right? So there's some positive things. The Water Commission that they've set up, we're still trying to probe what it actually means, but the fact they recognise the water industry is in a total mess with not just the sewage problem, but the flooding and so many other things, is welcome. It's a sort of breath of fresh air compared to what we were getting before. But I have to say they need to show they're listening to the public. That was the part of the problem of the last government. They just didn't listen. And take employers next, obviously the biggest change. The impact that's going to have on small businesses, the impact it's going to have on GPs.
Well, I mean, people with 4 employees on the national living wage don't have to pay any, are exempt from this increase, aren't they? So the smallest businesses are fine.
Well, I mean, it depends on how you define small businesses. You know, I think if you have 10, 15, 20 employees, you're not going to think you're a large business. So I think there's a lot are going to be hit by it and a lot are worried. And, you know, talk to your local GP. Now, okay, it's part of the NHS, but GPs are hit really badly by this. Some of the pharmacists in my country, in my constituency, across the country.
Yeah, you're not Prime Minister.
They are telling us that, given they're the front line working with GPs, that they're going to be hit by this. So lots of businesses and charities, hospices, so many organisations are not protected in Rachel Reeves' budget from the next rise, and that's why we're worried about it. We clear you needed to raise revenue, and you'll know, remember from the general election, we set out our ideas. I'd still go back to some of those and defend those. In fact, we've even added to them by talking about online gambling, that actually could be taxed more. So there's a number of things we put forward. So you do need to raise the money. We're really clear on that. We don't disagree. It's a question how you raise the money. Are you raising it in a fair way? Are you raising it in a way which will still allow the economy to grow?
Let's talk about some other policy areas and things that are happening this week or have happened this week. So MPs voted on the smoking ban, so gradually increasing the age at which you can buy cigarettes so that we have what the previous government called a smoke-free generation. Why are you in favour of that?
Yeah, I have to confess, I wasn't at that vote.
Oh, okay.
So you say now, I would have voted in favour of it.
Oh, okay.
But I was ill.
Right, okay.
But when it was put forward by Rishi Sunak.
And that was genuine illness as opposed to, I wasn't available to vote against something that some people might think is a bit illiberal.
Well, I'm just coming and being as transparent as I can.
I know.
I voted in favour of it because I think when it comes to smoking, it is clear that it damages people's health in a very profound, deep way. And when you look at the instance of cancer, when you look at the instance of heart disease, some of the big killers, we have to find a way to persuade the new generation not to go there. And the great news is, one of the reasons why I thought this was a sensible move is that already young people are moving away. And that's been a trend over some time. So why not try and accelerate a trend that's already there in the population? I think that makes sense to me.
And your 7 Liberal Democrat colleagues who voted against it, are they more liberal than you? Or how do you explain the fact that like a big chunk of your colleagues were of a different view?
Well, because it was a free vote, as it was, I think, for the other parties. I know about Labour, actually. But it was a tricky one. I mean, we had discussions internally, of course we did, and there was a strong argument put forward that actually this should be down to the individual and there should be free choice, and some of the challenges of the policy, practical challenges, were pointed to by colleagues. But I felt, and the majority of us felt, that actually, if we're going to challenge the public health aspect of it and move forward, we needed to give the government some support in it. And actually being cross-party on this was actually quite helpful.
You talked about the tone in politics. There's a few things we could talk about there. Your TikTok videos the last few weeks have become, they're definitely at the zanier end of the tone scale. Why is that a good way of doing politics? Because a few people have said, hang on, this is a bit ridiculous.
Well, first of all, I think you can do two aspects of your tone and approach. So in Parliament, I couldn't be taking the issues more seriously. Yesterday, I was asking the Prime Minister about end-of-life care and about the winter fuel payment. And previously, we talked about Ukraine and what happens to our relationship with Europe post-Trump and all the big issues, and approaching them in a very, I like to think, thoughtful, considered way with the right tone. On TikTok, I mean, it's not a
TikTok is not Hansard, is it?
Yeah, it ain't Hansard, and you have to get with the vibe. Now, I'll be honest with you. Don't tell anybody, but I'm not a big TikToker myself in the sense of understanding the vibe. I have to take advice, right? And the people who advise me tell me that I'm now leader of the Riz Dems.
Yeah. Do you know what that means?
Not quite sure, but here's the thing. People say politicians are out of touch and they're not trying to reach other audiences. And that's a fair criticism. And we're responding to that. And I think if you're going to get people interested in politics, you've got to reach them where they are and then tell them what you believe. And that's what we tried to do at the general election, to be fair. So this is not a new thing, the TikTok stuff. The general election, the whole point of the different stunts we did, the paddleboard and the bungee jump and so on, was to have a message with it. Whether it's about sewage or whether it's children's mental health or whatever it is. And if you can engage people so they don't just sort of switch off and, watch the football or do whatever they want to do, but actually, that's quite interesting, you can then actually get them engaged in the serious message you've got. And I'm not going to apologise for that. I think that's exactly the way to do politics.
But is there not a danger, though, that, okay, these are separate mediums, Parliament and social media, but actually, is there not a risk that if you appear too zany on one of them, it does affect your how seriously you're taken in the other?
Well, I certainly have noticed that so far. And I think people who have that criticism, I think they need to reflect on how different dark forces are using these media. I as a Liberal Democrat, I like to bring people together, that constructive attitude in Parliament. But if you look at the way some forces, not just in this country but elsewhere, are using social media, they're using it to divide and to take people to the extreme. So you had this election in Romania just a few days ago where a very right-wing person has got elected. And I am told, I'm not a great scholar of Romanian politics, but I'm told that TikTok was a key part of his campaign. We've seen what happened with Trump. There are other forces in this country and elsewhere that are using social media, I think, to spread division, whether it's misogyny or Islamophobia or whatever it may be. And I think it's incumbent on politicians like myself who've got a message, who believe in democracy, to be there to talk to people in ways that capture their imagination, enable and give you a chance to make your case. And we'll no doubt come to the Christmas single in a bit, but that was all about care. It's all about caring, and the TikTok stuff you're talking about was leading up to that single, which is all about young carers and having been a young carer and wanting to support young carers. That's why we're doing it.
We will come on to the Christmas single in a second, but just one last, and it's the most serious issue of all. We're recording this on Thursday. People will be listening to this on Thursday evening, Friday morning. Friday afternoon is when MPs will have their vote on this private member's bill about assisted dying. What do you think it will be like in the House of Commons when people are discussing that, and then when people are voting on it? Literally life and death.
Well, I'm hoping that it'll be a lot of people listening. And given what I read, that many people haven't made up their mind yet, this could potentially be democracy at its best, when people go into the chamber not knowing how they're going to vote and listening. Now, I've actually, sort of the third time I voted on something like this, so I've thought about it quite a lot. So I'm fairly, I know.
And because of your life experience.
And my experience. So I know how I'm going to vote tomorrow, but it's a personal thing. I haven't been pushing any of my party. I think this is an issue which people have to come to their own conclusion about. The one thing I do worry about it, and I'll be clear, it's not the first person to have said this, it all seems a little rushed. I would like more debate and more discussion. almost irrespective of where we end up, if we're going to do this, we really, really got to think it through. And people who are voting on it have got to feel that they've had all the information, impact assessment, whatever it may be. And I take my hat off to Kim Ledbetter. I mean, she's actually done a really good job. She's got the safeguards in, so I don't have any disagreement with how she's done it. But the process really needs to have more time, and I'd like the government to give it more time.
But a second ago, you were saying it could be democracy at its best, with MPs who are undecided going into the chamber, listening to a couple of hours of debate, and then deciding.
Yeah, but I think a lot will say, I need more debate, I need more information. So
isn't that just an excuse, though, to not reach a decision?
No, I mean, I think through the last few days, lots of questions have been asked that haven't been fully answered yet, because, again, no criticism of Kim, she hasn't got the government resources to do the impact assessments and so on. And people have been asking those questions. Now, as it so happens, I'm making my decision based on a sort of more of a principle about the psychological impact on individuals who are terminally ill and pressure that they may feel. And that doesn't require an impact assessment. But I'm listening to what other people are saying, and I'm hearing that they would like more information.
Yeah, so. I was wondering, and we come back to that question of tone. I was slightly nervous when this whole debate started. What if this issue that is so kind of moral and ethical, if it ends up being a bit like Brexit, where it's just people go a bit mad and start screaming at each other, and every tactic becomes available, and actually it sort of hasn't gone that way.
No, it hasn't, and I think that's really good. And I think showing respect to the other side is how we want to do this debate, and frankly, all debates. I think we lost our way in that debate, and we were as guilty as anyone else in that debate. People felt very strongly about it, but they didn't listen to the other side enough. And the good thing about this is people are doing that, and that's to be welcomed.
Do you look back at that Brexit era and it's like a weird dream? Because the reason I ask is because I've just started reading Tim Shipman's new book, his 900-page magnum opus that sort of does this. It picks up from the tail end of that period.
Weird isn't the adjective I'd use.
Well,
nor dream.
It was kind of disastrous.
Yeah,
actually.
well, I think for the country it was a bit of a nightmare. I think the whole country had a nightmare, and the fact that people did disagree within their families, within their workplaces, within their communities, I think people want to put it and almost forget it, right? Absolutely forget it. And that's been a challenge for a pro-European party who believes actually it's in our country's interest in terms of security, in terms of trade and economy, that we are closer to our European neighbours. People haven't wanted to really sort of go back to that moment where Europe dominated debate. And I sort of feel that is beginning to change, which I welcome. And I think the election of President Trump has also sent alarm bells on lots of people in this country, whether in business or in defence industries, saying, for security and trade reasons, we really need to reset that relationship with Europe.
Would you be okay with President Trump doing a visit to Parliament? Because I know some MPs in the past have said, nope, let's not allow him even into the House of Parliament.
The United States is a critical ally to this country, whoever is in the White House, and that long-term relationship is one that we have to nurture. And even if we disagree quite strongly with an individual who's there at the top at any one time, we have to engage with them. And I think if we can persuade them to take a different path, whether it's on Ukraine or whether it's on tariffs, whatever it may be, we should do that.
Right, would you like to do a costume change? I know you're itching to put that Christmas jumper on.
I think itching is slightly over-egging it.
I mean, you'll be itching once it's on.
Yeah. Okay, well...
Hang on, what date is it today? It's the 28th of November. I think it's fine to put a Christmas jumper on the 28th of November.
I've already
when
done
do you think you should put your Christmas tree up?
Well, normally I'm a December sort of person.
Like early, just like 1st of December.
Yeah, early's fine. My daughter wants it up. She's 10, so she rules the roost.
Yeah, okay. Right, so...
And, Christmas is a special time for me. My birthday's on Christmas Day.
What?
Yeah, my birthday's on Christmas Day.
Your birthday's Christmas Day?
Yeah.
How did I not know that about you?
I don't know.
What happens when you're born on Christmas Day?
Well, my mum was great.
Well, we know what happened to one famous person born on Christmas Day.
Well, my mum used to give me my present.
So Ed is slightly off microphone at the moment because he's putting.
Oh, right, okay, right,
on.
back
Get
on,
back
right.
in your spot. Yeah. So how do you manage?
Well, my mum and my wife have been brilliant. But after my mum died and before I married, my family had to be reminded by myself, normally around tea time, that it was my birthday.
Oh, okay. So you do celebrate on the day?
Yeah.
Okay. I've got so many questions about that.
Well, let's get on to other stuff.
Okay, no, that's not right. Okay, so Ed has now changed into his Christmas jumper. You'll be able to watch a clip of this, but if you're only listening, it's red. It's got half Christmas trees, half candy canes. It's very fetching. So tell me, this Christmas single. Imagine you're on Radio 2. Do the Smashy Nicey thing to introduce it, because we're going to play a clip of it.
Love Is Enough is going to top the charts. You ought to listen to it. The Young Carers Choir with Bath Philharmonia, they really are rocking. So how is that?
That was, I mean, Zoe Ball. Unfortunately, Zoe Ball's vacancy has been filled. Right, let's have a little listen to it. Lovely. I really feel like we're on the One Show now. This has got definitely One Show vibes. Right, how did this happen? How did this come about?
I'm going to give you the full story.
Please do. Yeah.
Out of the blue, the widow of my former choir master, who'd been going through his recording, sent me a recording of me singing a solo back in 1978 in St John's Carrington. I was a chorister, and it was in the bleak midwinter, a bit crackly, and I played it to my team, and we all thought it was quite funny, and put it away. But as you know, we've done a lot on carers, and we were thinking about how we could talk about young carers and raise awareness. And we thought, well, you were a young carer, and I was actually just about to become a young carer when I was singing that solo, because Mum had already got cancer, but it deteriorated pretty badly after that. And then my brothers and I had to look after her at home. And so we were thinking that there was a story there, but also the campaign for young carers. And I'd been down to Bath with Vera Hobhouse to meet the Bath Philharmonia, who've been doing this campaign, this sort of project with young carers for 19 years, where they do lots of music and singing. And we thought, why don't we talk to them about this? And they'd already written this song, Love Is Enough, our single. You can download it from iTunes and other streamers. They had already written it, and it was written by young carers and former young carers. And they'd played it a bit, but they said this would be really good for a Christmas single. And I'm told that a major retailer had actually considered it.
Okay.
So anyway, we chatted to them. They got quite excited about it. And then we just had this wonderful day in Bath recording it. And all that video that's linked to the release today is part of that. And it was such fun. It obviously had memories for me going back as a young teenager, how you grow up quickly when you've got that role, and all the young people there were so mature, and there's a degree of seriousness you could see with them because of their responsibilities. But also they wanted to have fun, and they wanted to have a break from it all, and that recording day, I think, gave them that. And certainly the work with Bath Philharmonia does that too.
And if people hear this as it zooms to number one in the charts and they want to find out more about support for young carers, what are some places to look?
Yeah, one of the reasons we've done this is to raise awareness of young carers, and also, if you're a young carer or know a young carer, help you to get the help that's available in your area. And Carers Trust, who've been helping us with this, have got a website, carers.org. And if you go to that website, put in your postcode, you can find out if there's a carer service in your area.
What are the things that genuinely help a young carer? Because I always think, okay, like a couple of hours respite, like going and recording a fun video and having a sing along with your mates, that is great for that hour or two. But then actually you're still going back to your life, which is a young carer. Yeah. So I'm always confused about what actually are the things that make a difference on a sort of longer term basis.
Yeah. I think there are several things. I mean, and let's remember, young carers are on a very wide spectrum. I mean, I was nursing my mum who's terminally ill, but you'll have young carers who are looking after a disabled sibling, and that's with them the whole life, and it's tough, but it's a very different type of experience. So that's the first thing to say. Young carers, there's no such thing as a young carer.
True.
Well, I would say though that the thing that brings them together, they're going to school. And I think the key thing is for schools to understand, to help identify the young carers, because often people don't say, I'm a young carer. I didn't. I'm not even sure if my school realised I had this pressure at home. And if schools can recognise that, they can give some support and also some understanding and potentially some extra support in education. I think it was the Children's Society a while back showed that young carers underperform in their GCSEs by 9 points on average. So, that's the pressures on them. So if we want to help those young people who are doing amazing things, we should recognise them, identify them better and give them extra support.
Should there be, a statutory duty on schools to recognise if somebody is a carer in whatever form that caring takes?
There certainly should be some duty on them. I mean, there is, I think, in the new register that schools have to take every year, they're supposed to work out who are young carers. But I'm not sure if they've been given the sort of tools and the support to do this role. We do ask our schools to do a lot, but I think given the impact this could have on the education of children, as well as their welfare, of course, I think understanding this is really actually pretty important. And then there's the other thing about making sure there are young carers services available everywhere. In my constituency, we've got a great young carers project through Kingston Carers Network, but and there are many others in different parts of the country, but there's some areas where there's nothing. And we need to put that right. So if you're a young carer in a place that doesn't have one, there is someone who'll get you, who'll provide some sort of extra support.
I'm picking up that singing is quite a big deal for you. Obviously, as a chorister when you were younger and doing your Christmas sing, is singing a big part of your life? I mean, it sounds ridiculous saying it like that, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm not in a formal choir. I don't really have time for that. I enjoy singing, and we go to church pretty often, and I love belting out the hymns. And so I do enjoy singing, but I think the talent I had when I was a teenager has not followed me into adulthood.
What's your favourite Christmas carol?
A Christmas carol?
Yeah, we're entering that period.
Oh, there's so many.
It's hard to choose a favourite Christmas carol.
Well, Oh Little Town of Bethlehem, or Holly and the Ivy, or there's so many.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to love carol singing. I'd go round with our choir and then go round raising money for charity with a load of mates from school. In fact, my brothers and I went, during the Band Aid, we went round the pubs in Nottingham raising money for Band Aid. But of course, they're a competitor this Christmas.
Of course, yeah, exactly. And it's a brutal market out there for the Christmas number one. What's your favourite Christmas song? Or your favourite former Christmas number one?
Mariah Carey. Mariah Carey, yes. Why are we both mispronouncing Mariah Carey's name?
No, my fault.
You got it wrong, and then you put
Mariah. I'm sorry, Mariah. And your favourite Christmas film?
It's got to be Love Actually, right?
Well, it's got a big political element to it, so
yeah.
But
if you see my TikTok, we've taken it off.
Yes, you've done the whole big writing on a big card thing. I see you've done that. Also, I noticed Keir Starmer, when he was on This Morning on the sofa, was asked if he had a favourite Christmas film, and he didn't have one, and he sort of plumped for Love Actually.
Oh, did he? Right.
Yeah, it's kind of the default one. Has he responded to your invitation to play FIFA with him yet?
Not yet. I'm very surprised by that.
And what is the point of that? Why do you want to play FIFA with him?
I don't know.
Oh, it's because your social media team told you to do it.
No. It would be fun, wouldn't it? But I think he's probably got better things to do, and so have I. But it would be a laugh. He's a big football fan, isn't he?
Yeah.
He's a big Arsenal supporter. But I'm a Notts County and Liverpool supporter, and there's a big conversation there we can have sometime.
Now, my colleague Miranda, who is producing this episode of Newscast, has just said, in a very Christmassy way, we're out of time, so we have to rap. Yay! Which also has multiple meanings. I'm not going to get you to do a rap. Ed, thank you very much. Good luck with your race to Christmas number one.
Yeah, thank you very much.
Newscast from the BBC.